My name is Atanas Kolev. So today, because the theme is about the pawn structure, so I'd like, just to make like a little bit of historic trip and to explain how it developed. In the chess history. So, okay, when the first masters of chess, when they begin, to get some grip of the game, the pawns really were not so important for them. Much more important was the piece activity. So that's why, it happened quite logical that there was some opening lines like the King's Gambit, much more, sacrificial type of opening repertoire. But just even from the beginning, some masters like Philidor began to understand, the importance of the pawns. In my opinion, the first world champion who had like a good grip of some positional fundamentals was Steinis, the first world champion, although in some way he was just a very good tactician and he was a bit dogmatic. So probably this is the case why the second world champion, Lasker, the second world champion, in my opinion, has like an incredible role because he really began to understand how complex is chess, how you can balance different factors, and maybe because of this better understanding, as far as I remember, this was the most convincing match between Lasker and Steinis. I mean, he just crushed Steinis. Of course, it helped a lot that he was like the standard case of the young lion dethroning the old lion. He had more energy, but still he was like understanding chess. He was like a really better player, so that's why he had like such a crushing victory. I mean, I do not even remember a world championship match with such a great dominance. I mean, you really had the impression that one player is much better, so the result was quite logical. So when we speak about the pawn structures, it's very useful to see how it developed, how they played, what kind of openings, and how they developed, the whole concept of pawn structures, how it dictates, the fashion in the openings. So, but just to mention that Lasker, the second world champion, he also showed that because he began to play like quite modern lines. He sometimes played c5, he played even c5, knight 6, knight 6, e5, which now we call Sveshnikov, but okay, we also call it Lasker variation. So he had like a very good flexibility, a deep understanding of chess. But mostly, in these ancient times, the most popular were the symmetrical opening lines, because okay, they wanted, it is easy to understand. I mean, they were like the pioneers of chess, so they wanted just like more stable pawn structures, like better to handle. Like the Sicilian pawn structures are more complex. So usually white play on the king side, black play on the queen side, asymmetrical, so it needs like a lot more subtleties. So they used to play, so e4, e5, when it gets a little bit out of fashion just to sacrifice pawns quite easily, they began to play like very similar to our openings, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Oh, this was quite popular, and it always will be popular because it's quite a logical move, trying immediately all the moves which we saw on the board, pressure the center. Bishop c4 also developed the bishop in a very good position, but it's not, direct pressure on the center. Even, for example, here, if you move back, d4, which is like a more modern approach, which Kasparov used it, playing exactly on this, on how you treat pawn structures. That's why he played so much Scotch in the matches with Karpov. But it's like a more modern approach. But bishop b5 will always be fashionable because like it's a clear strategic play. Now, in the modern times, because okay, they used to play this with a6, which now the most active moves and the most popular moves are a6 or knight f6. You may see that the most active moves. Well, a6, of course, immediately comes in hand with our question about the pawn structures, because then they can take on c6, like just can take on c6, and now you have the first decision whether you take with the b pawn or with the d pawn. All the strategic textbooks are very right by saying that whenever you can take in direction towards the center, because this is like the standard strategy. But there are a lot of exceptions, and even in the most popular opening like the Ruy Lopez, the Spanish game, d3 is a very obvious example of exception of this rule, because here, at least very quickly, the pair of bishops gets into play. The bishop can go to g4, so it helps our development. That's why this exception is easy to understand. You can grab immediately the pawn, because if you grab the pawn, he plays queen d4, double attack, he gets it back. But in these older times, I want you just to understand how they treated the pawn structure. So they used to play d6, a very solid move, not a bad move at all. I mean, no doubt about that. After that, it came a slightly more subtle approach. So first to include a6, bishop a4, d6, the so-called Steinitz defense, but in a better version. But they used to play d6, which it has like one negative point that is slightly passive, it slightly closes the dark squared bishop, but it's a very solid line. So as far as I remember, they used to play quite a lot, d4. Well, of course, you can play in other ways, but this is like the most active approach, immediately trying to fight for the center. Bishop d7, getting out of the pin, and also indirectly defending the pawn on e5, because if you take on c6 and I take, take on e5, the pawn on e4 is not defended. Knight c3. Here, it's interesting how it developed. Here, one very interesting detail. Until what moment you can still, sustain the pressure in the center. So in this, the way they played the opening gives us a lot of material, and I think it's very beneficial to study these old opening lines. Not because now they'll be quite frequently played against you, but just to understand how chess developed. It gives a lot in getting a better position of view of chess. So knight c3 defending the pawn, knight f6. Still, he keeps pressure on e4 if you take on c6, so you still can win a pawn. Let's say we castle, bishop e7. Still, if you take on c6, he'll be able to take bishop c6, bishop c6, take on e5, knight takes on e4. And after rook e1, here is probably the first important moment. Although I just have to make one important distinction. Here white can play, because the main theme is about pawn structures. Okay, white can play interesting approach taken on c6. Bishop takes here, queen d3. Also, trying just to force black to decide the center, whether he takes on d4, knight takes d4, and then having more space, although black has two bishops in a solid position, but have less space, you can, if he takes on d4, knight takes on d4, b3, bishop b2, rook e1, f4, with a more active position. This is like more difficult to play for black. If he wants to still to keep, the tension in the center, he has to play knight d7. But okay, here he has to give, some tempos, d5, knight c5, the only way to save the piece. Queen c4, let's say, bishop d7, bishop e3, still gaining some time, threatening bishop c5, knight e5. So this is an interesting approach, and quite good in my opinion. But in this ancient time, it was quite popular to play it like rook e1, and like I told you earlier, it's interesting. Can they still sustain the pressure? They have to take on d4. Well, this is like a easy question, but still it's good to know, because as far as I remember, it was a game Tarsh Marku which answered this question. Although, of course, many other games could have shown this, but I think this was the first game I saw, when I was very young, why you can sustain any more the pressure. For example, if you castle here, let's see, for example, let's check out one first line. Take here, take on e5, take on e5. Now, do we take on e5 or first we exchange the queens? Exchange the queens, because if we first take, then he'll take, and one of the defenders of the e4 pawn will be gone. So he'll get back the material. So we exchange. We take here. Well, of course, here we have to take with the rook. If we take with the bishop, it makes no sense. Knight takes on e5 plus one pawn. No. Here we can take with both of the rooks. Let's say if we take, okay, let's first take with this rook, which makes less sense, but okay, now we'll see why. I'll take the pawn. So you have to take on e4, no? Take. Okay, if not, you simply have lost a pawn. And of course you can take, there is no need here. So if you take with the knight on e4, we play intermediate move, taking on c6, and you resign basically. So you take on e4 because your only tactical but a good hope is the weak last rank. But here he plays a very easy move. How we cover the last rank, and we still keep pressure on the line when, for his bad luck, he's a couple of pieces. So it's not very easy to get them all out in one moment. What will be like here the normal move for white, which really challenges the whole approach of black of keeping the tension one more move. So castling instead of taking on d4 and giving up, you know, the fight for the center, but making, like we'll see, a very solid position. What will be the move here for white? If they want to prove that black is wrong, keeping the tension for one more move. Where could you jump with the knight? Knight e3, yeah, knight e3, exactly knight e3. And I'm asking, okay, what about the pin, no? And okay, you play f5, I play f3. Let's look, okay, it's easy. Here, f3, check, king f1, and okay, bad news, no? So here, let's check, because it makes slightly more challenging to take with this rook, because okay, the rook on f8 in this position can be helpful. So let's see the same line. Take here, take, play knight e3, and now f5. Well, now the thing is that on f3, if you play bishop c5 check, if I play king f1, what will you play? Because now the pin on the king on f1 is working for black, so he can just play bishop b6, no? Bishop b6, no material losses, well, we are okay, no? If you take, I'll take, and then I'll play g5, no? On knight f4. But okay, here, as far as I remember, this game established this, although this can be calculated over the board. Then on bishop c5, Taras was good enough player to see another, you know, tactical detail which has to do with the geometry of the chessboard. So now he changes. That's why tactics is very important in chess. He takes here, you take with the knight, bishop g5. Now you see what's coming, no? Bishop e7, a double attack, and there is no way to save the knight, because if you play here, the same thing. Here, rook e8, and now what's the move? Which ends the whole sequence. c4, and okay, you lose material, and you lose it badly. I mean, probably c4, king f7, take, and rook against knight is a very simple technical decision. So this, as far as I remember, was answering, you know, this question, why here? They even played earlier, they take on d4, so they have to give up the tension in the center, but still maintain a very solid position. Here also there is an interesting approach, how they played this type of position. Nowadays, it's more because the whole concept of the pawn structures becomes more and more subtle. So they play castle. We'll take a brief look, because I just want to give you an idea. But in the past, and it's quite understandable, they didn't want to have like more complex pawn structures with doubled pawns, because really with the doubled pawns, we'll see, we have to be careful exactly what they are doing, because they are not so mobile. They can be weakness not only in the end game, but even in the middle game. We will take a look. So they were playing knight takes on d4, queen takes on d4. Well, you can take on d7, but really no need, you know, to help the opponent to develop the queen on d7, queen on d4, and here you also have a choice. Because let's be honest, black has a very solid position. His problem is that he has less space now. But okay, this is one problem which the modern chess has proved that it's not enough. So even if you have more space, you have to pressure, you have to develop some weaknesses in the opponent's camp. And here they were playing bishop b5. Also, they can play castle. On castle, I guess, I mean, the normal logic should be here to play to maintain more pieces, because you have more space, so you need more pieces, because when you have more space and the enemy has more pieces in his camp, so he has more problems how to maneuver them. But also another very important aspect, one of the most important with space, is time in chess. So okay, if you move bishop f1, it's okay move, but you lose one tempo. So okay, that's why here it's possible, in my opinion, just to play bishop take on d7, queen takes on d7, b3. Of course, you can take here, let me show you, knight takes on d7, also a normal move. I can play knight d5, and still have like a small, but okay, a pressure. I mean, you can play bishop f6, I can play queen b4, and I have more space and you have some problems. Here, for example, you have to decide how you defend the pawn. If you have to weaken your pawn structure, if you play knight c5, bishop e3. So queen takes on d7, and here also a logical development of the bishop which prevents further exchanges, because if further exchanges occur in this position, it helps, you know, the side which has less space. So you can play something like b3, let's say rook e8. These are not forced moves, but in my opinion looks quite logical. Let's say here, and now you have more space and you can, let's double here the heavy pieces. And after he defends the pawn on a7, because he can follow suit, you know, doubling because on a7 he has to defend, like let's play a6, I can play knight e2, knight f4 and start, you know, pressuring you a bit. So probably because of that, here they used to play, there are some quite curious games, you can see them in many textbooks as far as I remember. One I remember quite vividly, here taken and now castle. Well, one of the most famous games was Wasker with black against Taras, when he just put the rook in the middle of the center, provoking Taras. And Taras was much better in my opinion in the middle game, but okay, Lasker was a very good tactician. He was a very good all-over player, I mean positional tacticianally, so okay, this helped a lot. So this game was, as far as I remember, bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, rook e8. But here also white can try. I remember there was like a friendly game between a Capablanca and a much weaker player. So here probably this was the reason that Capablanca played queen c3, you know, attacking here on c7. Although it's really not like a real attack, because you can make like a simple move. You can play a6, because you can take with the knight because of the pin, no? Rook c8. But if I have to be honest, in my opinion, it's even better just to play a more developing move like queen d7, on a4, a6. So okay, the pawn on a4, you know, sometimes can be a problem, although sometimes you can use the rook, lift rook a3, but it's hard to envision it now happening. So now queen d7 is better because you still can take here because of the pin. I guess taking with the queen on c7 is also suspicious, or it should be suspicious, because I can take here, and play something like queen c6, no? And rook e8 is coming, the queen feels trapped. If bishop f4, rook d8, and still rook e8, so you have to sacrifice the queen, which is not really and my idea of queen d7 is that if you play like knight d4, you win some time. So you can play something like rook e8, knight f5, bishop f8, which should be okay for black. They have a quite a decent position, which is completely the opposite which this opponent, Capablanca, I think his name was Fonarov. I've never heard of him, but he was like a player. They played like friendly game. Here he played c6, which is really losing time and also making the pawn structure worse, because now on d6 the pawn is having some problem and you're giving time of your opponent to put their piece on active position. And there followed, just as far as I remember, this game here, queen g3, tempo move, knight e5. Now no need to play immediately bishop h6 because he'll play knight g6. Capablanca played bishop f4, queen c7. I repeat, this was a friendly game. Rook d1, rook d8. And here, because it was a friendly game and Capablanca was a much better player, it happened to all of us, instead of playing something, probably queen a3, putting pressure, because on knight c4 you can play queen b4 and still putting pressure. Like if you take on b2, I can take rook takes on d6. b5, well, b5 looks some kind of unpleasant, but okay, you can play b3, no? Because on c5 it hangs on b5, and on a5 probably you can use some tactics like queen c5, you know, still keeping pressure. And now you see, now the pawn structure will not be good if you take on c5 and with all this, and I have 4 against, not only 4 against 3, but when I push e5, your bishop will be crying out loud, how they say. But here Capablanca played one of the very famous of his small combinations. Rook takes on d6, probably you've all seen it, but just to repeat it from a curious point of view here, and now bishop e5. Well, his opponent, like I said, because it was a friendly game, probably didn't think too much. Or maybe he got a little bit fancy. So here he missed a not too difficult to find move. Okay, we don't know where it was played, this game, at least I don't know. Maybe it was played in a cafe, so it was not so easy to spot it. Maybe there was noisy. But what move he missed here? Double attack with the queen. Yeah, he played rook d1. He played rook d1, a fancy move, and that's why he entered in the chess history. If he has played the other move, we will never probably have heard of Fonarov, although probably the guy deserved. Yeah, queen e5 was a double attack, and okay, here the position is not clear at all. You know, bishop c3, I think, but I think it's okay for black. I mean, I've looked at some false lines, but okay, white can in never way claim that they're winning. No, I think not winning, but something like here, you take, I mean, you have to take, no? And now you play rook g6, no, because it's a double attack, no? You play here, I check you play here, I take, well, we are talking about pawns, no pawn structure, so, okay, taken with the f pawn will be a very bad, you know, about the pawn. So he takes with the h pawn, he can play queen d6, but okay, I don't believe it with this scattered pawn structure white can claim anything. So probably it's an equal position. But for our rook, he played this super fancy move, rook d1, which showed imagination. So we have to be honest, we have to give the people, because of that, because of all these players, we love chess, we've learned a lot, and we've continued their road. If they were not, we'll be having a lot of problems and not having an idea about chess. So rook d1 here, bishop e5, and okay, here is a famous combination on the theme of deflection. Have anybody seen it, or all of you have seen this combination? Combination is knight h6 here, and deflection and last rank. And of course, Fonarov, because of that, he was in the chess history. Yeah. So knight b5, like I told you, castle. But okay, queen c3 is speculative in my opinion, not the best move. Well, bishop g5 here is what Taras played again last year. It's a very logical move, because at least you can continue if you continue like a normal move, let's say, I want to ask you questions because to be interesting. If you play queen d7, what do you think that makes this move a dubious one? E5, yeah, e5 looks very unpleasant. No, e5, because the bishop is hanging on e7, and in this position, probably, if we look a little bit, take, I mean, this probably is lost, no? I mean, I play here, I can play rook e3, double, because you can't take because of h4, no? Yeah, looks, okay, with this pawn on the penultimate rank, I mean, nothing good will happen, probably. So, I remember from my younger years that when I've looked at these positions, so, okay, there is one guy which was incredibly talented. He used to work with Tau, but he has some other problems. Vitolinš. He was a grandmaster from Latvia, incredible talent. And I remember one of them, here his opponent played this move, which makes sense because, like, when you have less space, you want to exchange some pieces. Also interesting, knight g4. Although in this famous game, he played last year h6. Let's just first here. Rook e8, rook d1, knight d7, bishop takes on e7, rook takes on e7, queen c3. Now it makes sense, no, because it wants to weaken you, and on c6, knight d4, knight f5, and here is the famous Lasker rook, you know, rook e5, and he got the rook here on the 5th rank when it's in quite danger, but tactically he was able to cope. Although this is a famous game as if Taras played badly. Taras played quite well, just in one moment missed some tactics, so he was having an advantage. So, and Lasker understood quite well. He played that because he didn't want to position with less space and a very clear plan, because white wanted knight d4, knight f5, queen g3, all the piece in the center. I mean, classical play. And I mean, Taras played simply. Wasker was a much better player. So this is one of the reasons. So what I've mentioned earlier is that here, Vitolish, I remember one of his game, knight h5, take, take, and now, because we are talking about pawn structure and how it went on, you know, the understanding of these subtleties, how it became less more and more deep. He plays here, okay, the first move e5, it's not too difficult. e5, because, okay, if I take with the rook, the knight is hanging, and I want to create on d6 not only something that I can grab, but even a potential weak pawn. No. Of course, with black, I don't remember who played with Vitolin, but he was a solid player, so, okay, he played like the most natural move, rook e8, asking, okay, what about the pawn on e5? Because, okay, the pin now is working in my favor. Not the only move, queen d1, but I liked how he played it. Knight here, knight f4. Okay, because queen d1, he just defends the rook and wants to take on d6. Because every endgame you have like problem, because I have like, you know this concept, 2 pawn islands. I'll have like 3 pawns, and you have one on d6, here 2 pawns too. So difficulties in the endgame, not counting that my knight now, in this precise moment, is more active. So knight f4, g3, and now queen d7. A very logical move now. Still, you can see that in the game, it's very, very close to complete equality. So now c4, I think. Yeah, c4. Now he played, I think here, knight here, knight g6, which helps him not to have any kind of pawn weakness. But still, in this game, as far as I remember, because Vitolish is well known for incredible attacking style, incredible, you know, ideas. He was one of the guys who gave the idea of Tau of the Pulgarski variation of the Sicilian Najdorf to sacrifice. Although it didn't went very well in the match with Pulgarski, a very famous match, but he had so many ideas and all done with sacrifice, incredible talent. Like I told, because of his health, he couldn't show all of his potential, but incredible talent. So here, he gets out of any pawn weaknesses, taking here, queen d6, and keeping the game very close to complete equality, because the material is equal. I don't have any pawn weaknesses, 3 on 3. So, but okay, I have slight initiative, like rook d1, probably on queen b4 he wants to play b3, queen c6, and now queen e4. Take, take, and still in this endgame, and he played brilliantly the endgame as far as I remember, Vitolish in this game, and maybe in general, he has some advantage. The advantage is probably based on the fact that you have moved just one pawn on a6. So if you attack my knight, it can go to c5, and your pawns are not in perfect condition, so you can play b6. If you play now b6, I can play knight c3, knight d5, and challenging your pawn. So small initiative, maybe with very good defense. Carlsen, maybe Karpov in his bench will have defended it, but I remember that he was not able to cope with the defense. Maybe the game, my memory went something like king f8, f4, f6, 5, knight c5, or probably, okay, maybe I can remember, probably he played here, f4, king f7, f5, here, knight c5. Now, this is the square which is unpleasant, and now on b6, the guy went into a favorable rook endgame. With which move? Yeah, knight e6 and rook d7 check. Yeah, and wanted to win a very, very good game. I mean, really, really something special. So okay, so this you see how in this position with almost no pawn weaknesses, but with less space, you have to be very careful. So maybe that's why the more modern approach is when you take on d4, let's get back a little bit, they just make castle. Very recently when I played, now at the end of December, I saw one game of a young player, international master. He played with John Bryant, which is already, just needs a little bit of training to become a grandmaster. Also, he's older than the DDR player, but also a very young player. And they played this position. And I remember this one from he had incredible books. John Nunn, and he was an incredible player, but he had too many interests. He was very intelligent in astronomy. That's why maybe he didn't reach full potential in chess. But okay, maybe he didn't need it. So okay, so here in this game, bishop takes on c6. Now I'll tell you about the game which I remember for Nunn Portish, because it was in one of many books of Nunn which I've read. Although he lost, I think, this game, but he was having a completely winning position. So bishop takes on c6, b takes on c6. So why with the pawn? So this is like an important question. Well, you can take with the bishop, because okay, the logic is when you have less space. I've already told you that when you have less space and you exchange, more pieces, this means that the question of space is not so important, because not too many pieces to find them the right places. But on bishop c6, I think that white should not take the bishop on c6, just playing into black's hands. It's not a bad move, but maybe it's better just to play knight f5, because with this pawn structure, the pawn on e4, maybe some other pawns on white, you need the dark squared bishop, so it's better to exchange, this bishop on e7. And if you play, let's say, rook e8, I can keep pressuring, like with bishop g5, queen d4 coming, so a bit of pressure, no, maybe not so much. Maybe the more logical is just to play knight d7. At least, you want bishop f6, and if you exchange it on e7, I take with the queen, fairly solid position. Still, I think when we talk about pawn structures, it makes more sense to me here with white to play, when I'm looking at the position, knight d5, take. And now, how do you think, it's interesting, your opinion, how will you take on d5? What do you think is like the better decision from a positional point of view? You take with a pawn or you take with a queen? Well, if you take with a pawn, it helps, you put a pawn on a light square, it helps have more space, but it has one defect, in my opinion. I may be wrong. That, it has only one open file, which can become, like in many opening lines, like the line of okay, I'm calling it in joke, line of death. Everything is exchanged on this line. And it's very difficult to create. When you take with the queen, in my opinion, you have more space, and you start, trying to create some real pawn weakness. So here, probably it's more difficult for him. In the other way, it's much more easier to exchange pieces. Playing bishop f6, rook e8, trying to exchange everything, queen f8, the other rook on e8, exchanging. Here, maybe it will be, of course, I'm not claiming at all that this position is like bad for black, but he has like more problems. He has to defend quite carefully for a long period of time. This will not be like a position which I really like to play with black. Although probably the engine will say that this position is slightly worse for black, but probably he will defend it. But okay, we are talking about us, about humans. So b takes on c6 here, probably because of knight f5, in my opinion. And now, what I told you about this game, which I saw like maybe less than 2 months ago, here they played a move which I never liked. Probably there is such an opening line, but he was the name of the white player, it was with B. I don't remember exactly the name, but he played queen f3, something like rook e8, knight f5. Take, he lost this game, right? And okay, he can play different things, even knight d7, queen d7 with the tempo, and I don't see any problem with black. And they even went on to won a very important for them game. It was maybe in the 7th round, or maybe the 8th round. So here the right approach, which I remember from this old game of Nunn, was to play b3, bishop b2, and just try, to put some positional problems. Why? Because of the pawn structure. So the pawn structure on c6, d6, and c7 is less mobile. So it has some problems. So this game of Nunn Portish, I cannot recall yet, but probably it went something like that. Let's say play here, let's say here, like rook d1, bishop here, h3, just in case, and then you want to play knight f3 and start threatening, because of his pawn structure, start threatening e5 all the time to make his pawns really weak. And then he can have some problems on the dark squares. So it's about pawn structure. So these pawns on c6, d6, and c7, you have to use them that they are not so mobile. If you just keep doing nothing, that they'll be okay. But okay, this plan like it, or maybe Portish played something like that. Knight f3 and e5 is a constant positional threat, just to make it. And then, if you take on e5, then you have problems with the real weak pawns. And if we exchange the dark squares, then you have not only weak pawns, but one of the problems, just probably you've read that, one of the problems with the weak pawns is not only the pawns, but it means that the squares in front of them are also weak, because the pawns are, like let's imagine c6 and c7 pawns, it means that the c5 square is also on. And when you exchange the bishops, it means it's eternally weak, which means that almost every endgame is very close to losing. Whether it's knight against bishop, not even talking about. Some other pieces, the rook endgame is unpleasant. So big problems out of this theme of the pawn structure, yes. So here, I think that b3 playing according to this pawn structure, I'm not claiming that it's like the best move, not much knowing, although I was playing for many years, e4 and principal line, but I think it's the most unplanned. I've seen it in similar structure. I think the only game I remember was this none with Portish, and Portish was a rather good positional player. And this game, very quickly, because of this plan, which looked with knight f3 threatening the position of e5, he got into serious trouble. Simply none because of his time trouble, just squandered the winning advantage. And when we talk about the pawn structures today, like in the afternoon, I was playing Blitz here in a studio, and there was one game which just a few hours ago, which I wanted to show you when we spoke about pawn structures. Okay, it was Blitz. Okay, it was Blitz on 3 minutes. But okay, before that, let me just during the game I'll show you about the opening line. So okay, in this game, I don't know the opponent, what was his name, like a decent player. Here, e6, okay, so e6, with a different move order, we'll get into one normal line of the Catalan. Okay, let me just tell you a few words about the opening repertoire. Okay, the opening repertoire always have some flaws, so you can't control everything. Like the opening repertoire I'm playing in this game was created, and this is the truth, about a student of mine, a young girl. She now studies in London. She's not a professional chess player, but she achieved quite a few success. She even became a world school champion in her age group. So with her there was a problem, that she was always studying chess with me, but almost never looked at it when she was alone. So I had to create a chess repertoire which was mainly consist of ideas and not of forced opening lines, and especially with white. With black, you need to know a little bit more of lines, because white are much more aggressive. But with white, and that's why many years ago I started to play the opening repertoire I created for her. Let me show and then I played for a few years just to show her that it can be played. So the opening I created for her was knight f3, d5, bishop f4, but with ideas almost in every situation, very different from the approach of the London system which Kamsky was playing, which he was playing it incredibly well because he's a great player. But it was a different approach. Like in these positions, I played bishop e2, and always just in some situation you can put the pawn on c4, but I always put the pawn on c4, so I played more actively. So this was created for her, and also if they play, and you try to avoid all kind of opening lines like the King's Indian, the Grunfeld, almost everything. Of course it has flaws, so most of the position you're trying to play for a very tiny advantage, almost non-existent. After g6, and of course I never wanted to show to play against everything the same thing. So bishop f4 against everything, I don't like it. I don't think, just to give you my idea. So if you play it like against e6 bishop f4, it's possible. Many players play it, not talking about the world's best like Carlsen. He can play everything and play it well because he's an incredible player. But here, b6 bishop b7 should be very, solid for black to say the least. Also, if you played bishop f4 with g6, it has some flaws. So here after e6, g3, like I played here on g6, I taught her to play like bishop g5, bishop g7, knight e2, and to play whenever they play, with d5 or c5, to play c3 and to play against the bishop on g7. The main strategic idea is trying to prove further in the middle game that the bishop on g7 has much less role than then it's expected. And it's a whole concept, you know, how to play the opening. Of course, if they play, let's say, castle, c3, they play with d6, then, like in many lines which I wrote, I try to play it in the most active way. So I'm not playing it passively. I don't like, you know, to play. So I play bishop c4, queen c, queen e2 with quite a few ideas in that. And I think it's an interesting operator. It does not, we have to be objective. It does not expect anything special because, okay, you can avoid all the main lines and expect and be quite ambitious in the opening. So I wanted just first to explain you about the opening. Okay, what happened? Yeah, just the broad. So d4, knight f6, knight f3, e6, g3. So here, of course, you're giving away something and quite a few things. They can play b5. Already I have some ideas with white, quite a decent move, grabbing some space. They can play even like in this game, my opponent played d5, bishop g2, b5 can be played on the forward move. Also a very solid line for black. They can play even a challenging line like this one, take d5, castle, e5, which in very recent game I forgot what I have analyzed in one position. So instead of what was analysis, okay, this comes with the h, I played the same idea but in a slightly different position, which was absolutely nothing. So I got absolutely nothing. The other one, at least it has like a resemblance of a tower, so it's interesting. But okay, it happens, you know, like I told you, these and this I have never played. I've analyzed it like years ago, so I've never played it. So you can play knight c6, c4, then it becomes sort of a Catalan. So in this game, which now we'll see, my opponent, blitz game from today, he played d5, just to show before here, bishop e7, castle, castle. So I'm postponing c4 for some reason. The reason is that you get away out of quite a few lines of the Catalan, which I prefer not to play. And of course, you give something to black, like it's always with the opener. You give, like I told you, b5 on the fourth move, b5 on the third move. I have idea how to play against that. But like I told you, I don't have illusions that white have something special there. But at least you have some idea of what are you playing here. Queen c2 now has become quite popular. It's the new age of chess, b6, which earlier nobody played, you know, and it seems a little bit ridiculous now, but okay, now it has become popular. It has some these Bogo-Indian ideas. But okay, the old-fashioned a6, a4, bishop d7, rook d1, here, knight c3. So this I have played in 2012 with Josh Friedel, who was here before me. Okay, this position, it has a lot, the main theoretical line, in my opinion, has a lot of subtleties, and it's not easy to play with black at all. I think that basically, I think it's a position with two results. What I mean by two results, that whether you win or if he defends quite well and he plays very well, he can make a draw. But okay, it's not easy at all. So here, rook c1, and I think that the whole position is quite critical for black. Maybe black, you know, all these guys, Caro-Kann, because he played one game before that against Kramnik, he had certain problems. Maybe they have it analyzed now till a draw, but still it's nothing special. So in this game with Josh, I think it was a5, like take, e3, queen e7, maybe not the best, but quite logical, no? Here, rook b4, queen e2. Now you're having some problems, you know, with the weak pawn structure. Like, let's say if you play here, what would you play? What would white play? He didn't play queen before, but what do you think that white will play?
Queen takes queen, then rook c1.
Yeah, exactly. This is the right position approach because you need these pieces and pressure in the end game. Because, okay, he has more weaknesses, and basically the play is mainly on one flank. And on one flank, the knight is more powerful than the bishop, no? Because it's like a more special piece. When it's on both flanks and it's an open position, then the bishop can show the long range. But it's not the case. So yeah, I'll take here and play rook c1. I remember that he played here something like, okay, exactly the same I probably would have played on e5. Probably something like that, like which we've talked, like take here, and on this, I can probably take here, let's say, and play rook b5, no. And still you have to prove me that, you know, you can make a draw. Maybe you can, but you know, this type of position with 2 results, and when you have energy, okay, in early years you have a lot of energy and you are focused, and this is like technical position I like to play a lot. Here he played Josh Queen d7, Rook c1, e5, but still got into a lot of troubles, like take here, here, take, Queen a4, unpleasant. And okay, here in a winning endgame after that I just made a very grave mistake, just a lapsus, and I didn't win. And after that it was like a miraculous rook ending, which ended in a draw. It's quite curious that here, as far as I remember, although this was played quite long ago, on this move I just took on a5, queen e2, take, and the rook endgame was lost. Although after that I made some but here, how the engines change the world. But I still prefer, you know, our human vision, because we can play just like us, like humans. We can play. When I looked at this game quite a few years ago, he was saying that queen h4, I want queen h4, which really in our human logic is, okay, I played queen a4, now I'll be back, you know, starting to exploit, you know, the king. I still don't like it, although probably, of course, being a much better player, the engine probably he is right, but okay, I mean, I try, for example, in chess, and I can advise you, try to play things which you understand what's happening. Because even I remember one old interview of Anand, one of the greatest players of the chess history. He was saying about these problems with the memory, with the recording a lot of analysis, because these guys, they play a lot of things, they have a lot of analysis, teams working for them. So they were asking him, that was a very good interview, how do you cope with this? And he was saying some details, but also mentioned one thing. If you have some position in which the analysis are very complex and the engine is saying, okay, this is winning, but you look at the board after some time and you don't know what's happening, better don't go in this position. But it may be favorable, but if you're like a human, you have no idea, and we are talking about Anand, one of those, you have no idea what's happening, so probably even during a game you won't have an idea what's exactly happening. If it's some, you know, crazy stuff, like one position I was looking today with a king on d1 straight out of the opening with white, and I'm not talking about Carlsen saw one of the ideas in opening line I'm also playing, but in other similar line, well, king on d1, and he was telling me, the computer, that okay, bishop d3, and it's maybe white is better. Well, maybe, but I don't like it, so I prefer, you know, to look at something which I understand. So yeah, this is like the idea of this main line. Of course, except of the main line, there are many more things which we've played here in this blitz game. So here, bishop c6, knight c3. And then here, let me first show you how was the game, how in 3 minutes players like normal players play nothing special chess, and okay, how it could. Here my opponent, I remember, played one weak move. I've seen this move, and I have it analyzed, like I told many years ago, very profoundly, like almost everything. But of course, you don't remember almost anything. I remember that I've played blitz with this move, a5, like e4, here, knight e5, knight b4, queen e2. Now, place here, I take, rook takes on d3. This is a very unpleasant position, and this is to say the least, very bad. But okay, the move he played in this blitz game, I say this game because this was the last game which we played in the studio. So the guy played a move which I have it now, and I'll show it to you that it's true. He played here b6, and now you play a typical blitz a tempo move, knight e5, sure. But I really have pointed out d5. Here is very, very strong in e5, and then knight takes from d5, and you can trust me, this is like almost forced, in a forced way, lost for black. Of course, during the game I couldn't remember this, so I played knight e5. Here, I don't remember if I played d5 or queen e2 first, but the game was something like that. Here, nothing special, it's a chess. Here, knight c4, maybe bishop d6, but okay, he played bishop c5, and I played queen f3. Yeah, at least, you know, you try to control the g4 square, no? After I was sure that I haven't played like some kind of a real chess. But okay, for 3 minutes game, at least you know, don't try to blunder knight g4. So only this, you know, happens just in some case. So queen f3, knight b4, bishop g5. Now this was a natural move. Although here, for a few seconds, I was looking in some situation earlier when I played queen e2. Yeah, something like that. When I took here, here. But I don't know. I was looking during the game for a couple of seconds of ideas like, you know, d6, take and if he takes on g2, knight takes on f7. But okay, because I didn't want to get embarrassed, you know, people to see that probably I missed some easy tactics. Okay, I don't know if it's working. I have to check it. But okay, in this game, I played here, bishop c5. So here, knight b4, bishop g5, bishop e7. Now we can maybe play something else. But I thought that this move, like for blitz, it comes handy. So h4, h6, I take queen f4, probably an equal position, but okay, at least you have some ideas, you know, with d6 you are better in the center. He has the two bishop, but okay, you have dominance in the center. And this in blitz is always better to be active, you know, just to have some threats. Of course, he will probably have to play something like queen d7 or in a normal position. But here, like it happens in this very quick game, blitz, he makes like a huge blunder. Well, the first move is really bad, and after that, the idea of this move is to make a blunder after that. So bishop takes on c3, a bad move, obviously. B takes on c3, and now, okay, he has to play knight a6, but the position is already, in my opinion, quite bad. But okay, this really is terrible, no? How do we win here? Here there is no magic. I mean, it's super simple, because I just take, and knight e3, no? And he loses the piece. Well, the guy even played, well, when I played this, I didn't see anything, because, okay, there was nothing to, I mean, on here you just play, or you can even play rook takes on d5, winning a piece. But you can even play here, no? But I saw that if he played c6, I just play here. This is the only line I saw here. And on this, I play here. He's losing the bishop. And on g6, I have queen h3, no? At least I'm getting back home and winning material. But he even preferred here to play take. No, he didn't play c6, no? He took here immediately. But the best thing is, and here he resigned, because still c4 follows, no? You've made one sacrifice, but okay. The gods of chess said, no, give us more. So he has to give up even the bishop. So, but okay, but here, just to give you one idea. So in this old analysis of the whole analysis of these positions, like quite a few years ago, this really existed, but of course I couldn't remember. So okay, bishop b4 is one of the moves. a5 is a really bad one, and b6 is really bad. d5, yeah, the best move, which I didn't play. e5, and now it's very bad, you know. Knight e8 and such ideas, combinatory, bishop d5, and then you take your queen, and he doesn't have coordination. So okay, maybe in normal game, to find d5, e5, it's not difficult. But in blitz games, you play a lot of, how to put them, like impulsive moves, like, oh, this is like easy in i5, but okay, it's not. Here today, maybe in the second lecture, I'll show you, because it was very interesting that we played the same position with a different move order, which I was in awe when I saw there was a match in 2017 in chess.com. Okay, it was a tournament, but maybe it was semi-final. Carlsen played. They play some format chess.com, which I didn't know before. So now I was watching it all the matches. They play format 5+2, then 3+2, then 1 minute plus maybe 2. Yeah, so very interesting matches. And in one of the game, which I watched live I mean how they are playing on chess.com. It was an incredible game. He won against, so this game, exactly what I've played today, and he won it in such a fashion that it was I'll show you how I record exactly how he took the decision. It was like incredible genius. I mean, just to watch how everything was clear for him, and in one moment he stopped and he thought exactly in the moment he had like a clear, normal situation which gave him an advantage, but he felt that this is the moment because he had a clear advantage on his score. This was the moment maybe to have something better, and there was something better, not easy at all, because we'll look all to see if you, and he found it in 1 minute. I mean, it's really like watching like a genius in action.